I'll mute then.
Okay, so here we go. Let me see what I want to do.
We haven't muted.
Okay, that's not working.
Samarah, while you're doing that, I want to repeat Peter's suggestion. Everyone, please mute your individual session so that there's no interrupts with Mary.
Thank you. Thank you. That would be great. Thank you. Okay. So today is 1/1 of 2022. My name is Samarah Grace, and I want to welcome you to the Mother Mary monthly message that's been going on for a while. One of the things that I'm very excited to share with everyone is Mother Mary's take on what's going to be happening. And like many of us, I'm a little concerned a little bit, but also excited to see perhaps the changes that we can make in this new and exciting possibility that we're going to be creating. And one of the things that really struck me was the word that she used that I was to start with, which is alchemy. And so some of you have perhaps studied about alchemy. The ancient times, it was supposedly the practice of turning lead into gold. But Mother Mary said, this is the year for soul alchemy. So let's just take a moment, take a breath, feel yourself in your heart, allow whatever energies are positive and powerful for you to be with you right now, to be the energies that you want to see, to feel, and to share. Because alchemy is really a scientific, alchemical shift from one kind of thing into another. And so if we're thinking about changing whatever has not been pleasing for us in the past, we can think about energetically, what might that mean? So for those of you that haven't met me yet, as I said, my name is Samarah Grace. I've been channeling Mother Mary for about 22 years now. And so without further ado, on 1/1 of 2022, I bring in the energy of Mother Mary to share and to bless all of us. Hello, everyone. And what I want to say without further ado is yes, happy, happy, happy New Year. And what I want for all of you is to realize that the happiness of this new year, it's an inside job. It's an inside job. Whatever is happening out there, some of you were commenting about the weather and traffic and driving and this and that. It doesn't have to be what pulls your energy into a lower frequency. It certainly can be annoying, frustrating, even scary sometimes. But this alchemy of which I was offering and what I would like to suggest to you today is an alchemy of the heart, an alchemy of the mind, an alchemy of the spirit, and altogether that's an alchemy of the soul. And so in order to accomplish that, in order to have that, in order to be happy, one of the attributes that is so essential is to claim your own sovereignty, to be the boss of you. To be the boss of you, meaning the decision maker. It doesn't mean to be unkind. It doesn't mean to be a dictator. It doesn't mean to not consider the other people in your life. But it does mean to be the boss, to be the CEO of your life, to make the choices and decisions that amplify your well-being, to amplify your well-being. And so what that requires is for you to know, sort of on a scale, of balancing what amplifies my well-being and what is dissonant or sort of destructive to my well-being. And so certain people in your life might not contribute to your well-being. And so you take them in smaller doses, or if at all. But the bottom line is inside, how do you create happiness? How do you create a sense of sovereignty? Well, I think the simplest answer I can give you is, again, it's like taking your temperature, only it's taking your energetic temperature and realizing, I've been sitting at my desk all day, no fresh air, no sunshine, no movement of any kind. This is not so good. And so you you take a break and you put on, in some cases we were talking about mittens and hats, and and you go out and take a walk to enhance your well-being. Because if you don't, then what starts to happen when you get below a certain point, it's like your car running on fumes. It no longer has the strength of decision making. If you've ever had your car on fumes, it can barely make it to the side of the road before you call AAA or whatever you do. So you don't want to get there. The other thing to realize is that the passion of your life is part of your well-being. So what is that? And again, for each person, it can be quite different. It can be loving your animal or your grandchildren. It can be walking in nature. It can be having a garden or tending to flowers or being an inventor and a creator. But passion is really the fuel to sovereignty. Because too often in your lives as human beings, you're told, well, don't worry about your passion, get a job. Don't worry about your passion, do something that, makes a lot of money. And again, there's nothing wrong with jobs and money. But if you've let your passion dwindle into a forgotten memory, you've lost the chance to create what God put inside you to bring to this world. And so there's a great sense of loss in yourself, never mind what you are not currently then contributing, to the world. So to be the boss of you is to sort of take charge and realize, I'm in charge of my own happiness. I'm in charge of my body, what I eat or don't eat or drink or don't drink, where I go, who I see. Okay, all right. And so there's an increase in your sovereignty. There's an increase in your ability to choose what brings you the most well-being, given whatever else is going on in your lives. And I think that the reality, let's just use a couple of examples that you've all seen recently in the news. So recently, in the last week or so, Desmond Tutu passed along. And if any of you have not made acquaintance with him energetically, go on the internet or YouTube or whatever you like to do and watch him. Listen to him. Feel his energy. This is a man who had tremendous challenges and difficulties to deal with. Apartheid, right? My goodness. But what he brings is a great presence of laughter, a great presence of joy, a great presence of curiosity and wanting to get to know you and what you're up to and what you're about. So he doesn't come across like someone who is so distracted by the problems of the world that there's no solutions coming forth. So what he's done is increase and enhance his sovereignty, his presence. Now, does that mean he gets to rule over the world? No, we're talking about the sovereignty of yourself, the sovereignty of yourself. Because if you have that, if you've sort of fueled your passion, if you've taken care of your well-being, now your presence is a great light in the world. And your own happiness is part of what you're sharing in whatever ways you are meant to share them. And so take a look at him. And then, of course, recently, one of the wonderful actresses who's been around 99 years, Betty White, also just passed away. And take a look at her manner of being and her sense of humor and her presence. And I think what you'll see are two, of course, very, very different personas, very, very different people living very disparate lives. And yet what they both brought was a huge level of sovereignty and well-being and laughter and presence into the world. And so when you realize, do I want to just chase money at the expense of my well-being? Or do I want to really sort of delve into being happy and the sovereignty that that brings, while still keeping an eye out for my contributions and how that might sort of spill over into the world, whether that's being an actress like Betty White or being Desmond Tutu in your own country, or of course many of the others that we could name. So in 2022, what you have is this opportunity, and I'm going to use a gardening metaphor for just a moment. We'll run around all our metaphors. And in one garden, there's all the ruins of the past crops, right? You know, that have been not very well tended. And so they're misshapen and they're sort of brambles everywhere and things aren't in order. And if you try to go into that garden and create a new garden, you've got a lot of work to do. It's not impossible, but it's a lot of work to do. And so my suggestion and the reasoning behind this idea of happiness and sovereignty is that instead of working in the 3D plane of going to that old garden and having your hoe and your tractor and trying to, you know, create fresh soil there. And again, this is an analogy. If there's gardens like that, we still would like them to be reclaimed. But in my analogy, what I'm imagining for you is to, instead of working with what's already been trashed, to come back into your passion, into your happiness, into your sovereign self, and ask the question, what would my new garden look like? What would my new garden look like? And as an analogy, what it's about is, what are the seeds that I want to plant? What kind of soil do I have in my life? And again, in this analogy, if you've let your well-being go, then your soil is quite depleted. It's lost its vibrancy. So you'll have to go and get all sorts of things to replenish the soil. But if you begin to work from what we call the causal plane, C-A-U-S-A-L, the causal plane, the unified field of all possibilities, instead of having to go through and remember and take care of all the things that you're disappointed about, create a revolution inside you and say, 2022 will be the year of my new garden. And so what you're doing is you're, in a way, removing yourself energetically, just for a while, from all of the issues and problems and difficulties and miscreations in the world, just for a little while. And what you're saying is, what would I like to plant? What would I like to grow? What would bring me happiness and joy, and also be something that perhaps I can share with others? Now, to do that, you have to be in touch with your passion, but you also have to be in touch with your gifts. I use Betty White and Desmond Tutu as two extraordinarily different human beings, but they rose and led by using the gifts that they had to be presences in the world that were formidable and beautiful and will be remembered for many years to come. And so your gifts are really the things that bring you a quiet joy, a sense of satisfaction and well-being. And they're things often that seem so easy for you, even though they can be very difficult for others. And so as you're moving into this idea of a garden, just take a look back at your life and the things that made you smile, the things that brought you happiness, the things that felt, wow, that was really lovely. And realize it is those gifts with a little bit of passion fire that can create a new garden for you. So the next part is to realize, all right, so rather than trying to right all the wrongs and convince everyone who doesn't agree with you that you have the best idea, as Dr. Phil would say, how's that working for you? You become sovereign, you become sacrosanct, you become your own unified field. And as Samarah just did, you write a book and you put it out. Or you have a Zoom class, or you build your own library somewhere. Or, you know, there's endless things. But the wonderful thing is, with today's technology, it doesn't take the money that in the past it took to start a new business, to try to create something, you know, from scratch. In the past was 3D. Now with the internet and all of these various forms of technology, you have so many beautiful, beautiful, beautiful possibilities. So let's back up for just a moment. So January is all about deciding, this is the year I'm going to choose to be my sovereign self. I'm going to choose my own sovereignty. I'm going to not sort of fall victim to what I believe is the way that it is. It's not the way that it is. So to forge a new path, is really to, I guess what I want to say is to believe in yourself. And so there's an aspect of vulnerability that happens with that. There's an aspect of, who, me? You know, I don't know how to do that exactly or whatever. And so what I'm going to just suggest to you is that you get over it. You know, you are who you are. You have the capacity that you have. And that's what you've got to roll with. I mean, when you look back at, you know, both Desmond Tutu and Betty White and all the myriad other heroes in our world, they didn't always get the encouragement we wished for everyone, but they did it anyway. And so your way of being in this 2022 will come from your willingness to be vulnerable, to recognize that you are the boss of your life and that there are many, many possibilities out there that you could blossom. And so when you begin to do that, you begin to lay down all of the, oh, I couldn't, I don't have the money, and I'm too old, and all that stuff. And you realize something very special. All of you have an expiration date. And so why not fulfill your promise while you're here? Why not? Why not fulfill your promise while you're here? Now, the good news is many, many of the children who were born in the last 20 or so years are fierce warriors of the light. And I say fierce in the sense of unrelenting in their commitment to live and create a beautiful world. So you're not alone. And these children are already making waves and doing things and inventing things and coming into their fruition. But they could use some models in moms and grandmas and aunts and uncles and grandfathers and all of that, who say, not, there's no money in that, but say, wow, what a fascinating idea. How could I help you with that? How could I help you with that? And when you think about what your life might, how your life might be different, if you had had that sort of encouragement and nurturing as you were growing up, not only about making money, but about truly discovering what you came to bring and what you came to build.
Isabel.
So for all of you, what I want to say is there are no lesser lights. Betty White is every bit as bright as Desmond Tutu in her own way. And each of you are bright in your own way. And so it really is a question of understanding. And I had Samarah outline these in her book. I hope you all have had a chance to look at it or get a copy. But I outlined it as 7 gateways. Each of those 7 gateways in relationship to a chakra. And that as you balanced and cleared and did all that, then you would, have your own sovereignty. But the secret that wasn't yet revealed in the first book that we're working on for the second book is called the 8th gateway. And the 8th gateway is really sovereignty, where you've cleared your typical 7 body chakras, but now you've connected them in the infinite 8 to the soul star chakra and the earth star chakra. Your soul star chakra holds the promise that you made before you came. And the earth star chakra holds all of sort of the lineage of your family, the karma, if you will, of your family, and the woundedness of your families that you might need to overcome and heal. So together they become sort of this alchemical equation. What did I come to do? What was in the way of me doing it? How can I come into my body and align everything in my body so that I'm in touch with what I came to do? And I can actually use the challenges or the difficulties or the karma of my family as the compost for my garden. And that's really sort of the secret to having your own sovereignty, because each of you has this sort of treasure basket of gifts. But along with that, just like Pandora's box, there came the ills of the world, if you will. So your journey on the human scale is about discovering, who am I? My ancestry, my lineage. Why did I come? What was my promise that I made? And how can I resolve anything in my being, in my belief system, in my physical body, et cetera, so that now my body is clear. And what I know I'm here to do is connecting back to the difficulties or challenges that I came in with. But that is now the compost for my garden. So it's a long journey, but it can be a lot of fun as well. So I'll leave you with, for the recording anyway, I'll leave you with one more metaphor. And that is, some of you perhaps have heard the fable of the blind men and the elephant. But I want you to have it in your minds as you're creating, because the other difficulty in the world today is that not everyone, but many people think they know what's best. And especially they know what's best for you. And they know that because they've seen even though they're blind, the elephant. But in the story of the blind men and the elephant, what was really interesting is that the first blind man grabs the tusk of the elephant, right? And he says, oh, it's a spear. Well, the second one has his hands on the side of the elephant. He says, you're crazy, it's a wall. Well, the third one has his hands on the ear of the elephant. You're both wrong, it's an ear. It's an ear and it's a fan. It's like a fan. Then there's one in the back and he's got the tail. And he's like, you're wrong, it's a rope. It's a rope. You're both all crazy. And then, of course, there's the one who's holding the leg. He says, it's a tree. And then the last one is holding the trunk. And he says, no, it's a snake. So all of humanity has their hands and eyes on a part of the elephant. And so we all see things based on our history, based on our belief system, based on our religion, based on our culture. And we think we're right because that's the part of the elephant that we have our hands on. But I just invite you to step back a little bit and to see the elephant, which is all of humanity, all of this world, all of life, and realize it's all of those things. And at the same time, none of those things, because the whole is greater than the sum of those parts. And it's the same in your life. All of you have had challenges. All of you have had difficulties. All of you have had people who betrayed you or disappointed you. So my deepest, deepest desire for each of you from now on is to say, you know what? I choose to be sovereign. I choose to be happy. I choose to explore my gifts, rekindle my passion, and give my best to this world. Because there is, at the end, an expiration date. And I want to have lived my life fully, joyfully, to the best of my ability. But then when I come home, all I will see as I look back is the trail of light that I left. So, my beloveds, I'm going to be turning off the recording in just a moment. But for any of you that would like more information, my website is samarahgrace.com. There's lots of information there and opportunities to connect with Samarah and with me. And we'll be back on 2/2 of 2022. And we hope on that broadcast to hear the reports of each and every one of your beautiful sovereign gardens.